bad for you?
Very bad, in fact. Sweet potatoes, for example, I thought was low allergy, like it couldn't do anything wrong, and it was a great way to get carbs. No, it turned out that was the problem. And they're full of chemicals.
Do you think that the vegetables are poisoning us?
The ones that are high in oxalate, oxalate's a very serious chemical that is essentially a poison when you eat too much of it. Think about it. If you go out hiking, if your 3-year-old nephew was grabbing the berries off the bushes and snacking, what would you do about that? Call the Poison Control Center. Why? Because plants are poisonous.
Do you feel like there are a lot of people walking around that
What if you're eating
truly
fucking
believe they
blueberries?
are at their peak health, that are actually poisoning themselves because they're eating so many vegetables?
That does seem to be the case. People come to me and say, I was perfect for 30 years on my high vegetable diet that had a lot of oxalate in it, and all of a sudden I am sick with bone pain, joint pain, urinary problems, headaches,
Bone
bad
pain,
sleep,
man.
bad mood, because we're getting this kind of programming, this insidious program that has us being very comfortable with the idea that plants are here for us, they want us to be healthy, that's why they're here. That's a delusion. We're using these foods in an effort to protect our health, and it's doing quite the opposite.
You're going to be the most controversial guest I have ever had.
They find more dramatic music.
That's what I was gonna say, dude. It's like a fucking horror movie.
It's like the reactionary right. Like, this is like one of those culture podcasts for the right. So she just had like all these crazy people that just completely go against the grain of whatever the mainstream was, because can't trust anything now.
Plants are bad for you. Berries,
Well, if you eat enough of it.
blueberries, cherries,
Yeah.
poison.
Not bad if you smoke them.
Are you?
Yeah.
Are you poisoning yourself with blueberries and raspberries? Do you have bone pain? Probably
The bone pain.
Probably all the blueberries and raspberries you've been eating.
Just the one.
Yeah.
Well, here we are, refilming episode 3. Luke wants us to make fun of him for fucking it up, but I walked in his office yesterday and he had his head down and he was legitimately felt bad about it. I'm like, it wasn't your fault that the memory card didn't work, so.
No, it's his. I mean, I don't want to save people's feelings. It's his job to make sure that everything's working correctly.
He gets it, Tyler.
Yeah.
You know what, Luke? Then fine, you're fired. Get out of here.
I don't think we'd fire him. I think we don't let him off the hook, though. You know.
Well, he doesn't even bring the laptop in anymore, so we can't even look at it.
laptop, guys. I don't know where this laptop is.
No, so he doesn't even clock in. It doesn't. It doesn't matter.
Okay, whatever, fine. We'll move on. We'll have to do all of our announcements again about last week. Because, we were refilming, we did have trigger warning, Commander Impeach land.
Is it Commander impeached?
No, we thought about doing impeached because that would have been also funny.
He has been impeached.
Yeah, twice.
Criminal 30.
And 35 felony counts.
35 felony accounts.
Convictions.
Don't forget the Russian collusion.
Yes. Putin loves that.
Putin's glad he's in.
Yeah, he is. Definitely.
Finally.
So we'll end that war. Finally, maybe. We'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. So, there's a war.
But anyways, trigger warning. We did this back in July, 8 days after he got shot.
We came out of the quick, yeah.
So it's back. We launched it on Inauguration Day. So also just would like to make an announcement. It's high stim, but it is fentanyl free, so we don't have to worry about
it. Didn't come across the border.
Yep.
Nothing's coming across the border anymore.
Not
that
anymore.
stopped on January 21st.
So yeah, but then this week we launched yesterday direct to consumer Clear Whey isolate.
So no bullshit. The Clear Whey. What is it? Thunder Punch.
Tropical Thunder.
Tropical Thunder. That is the best tasting protein I've ever had.
Yeah.
Legit, as like thirst quenching protein. That is the best tasting protein I've ever had.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. Obviously, the test is if your kids like it. My 8-year-old loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we got some picky people in here who don't like protein, but they like this one. Mm-hmm. So, I really liked the cherry bomb berry isolate that we had prior. Mm-hmm. That was the worst seller. So this is a kind of a good replacement, and everybody likes this one.
It's a good improvement too. Yeah. Cherry bomb was good. This is clearly better. Clearly better. No pun intended.
Definitely pun intended. But yeah, so last week the topic that we were going over was kids and nutrition. I think we wanted to touch a little bit more on the fitness side of it. But kind of what do you do for kids and nutrition? And I think there's an important place where that starts, and it obviously starts with the parent. You basically control their lives for 18 years. So those good habits, what you introduce to them, all that stuff kind of starts with you.
Yeah, I think it does start with that, and then it's there's a time, you said 18 years. There's a time when your kids don't have a choice. Like they're going to eat what you feed them, and it's kind of before they know better. I know something we did. We always like, don't quote me on the age here, but this is we should really have my wife on the podcast because she's the real nutrition guru with the kids, and that's what she studies, what she does. But with our kids, when they were like 6 months old, still breastfeeding. We breastfed for over 2 years with both of our kids, but she's real big on that. But then we started doing like kind of letting them, it's like baby led weaning, but like at 6 months old, they can start handling some soft foods and stuff. We were giving them like avocado. And one thing that's kind of burned my memory that I think of when people say like, oh, my kids are picky or something. We had Samuel, who's now 8. I remember him sitting in his high chair, and I don't know how old he was. But he was not yet a year old, and we would have like our meal prep. And one thing we were eating a lot at the time was cod. When Kylie was pregnant with him, and afterwards we had cod, and I would always take the just baked codfish, and I would put it with cod rice, and I like the Frank's Red Hot, cover it in that. Heat it up the microwave. It was like butter and rice. It was really good. She would give it to him just a fillet of a small fillet of cold cod, and he is double fisting, eating this like he's some kind of Norwegian, I'm like, but he didn't have any perspective of what was sweet and sugar and stuff. He had like avocado, some of the stuff we'd give and watch him, like watermelon, something safe, for kids, kind of some smashed up watermelon, stuff like that. So that was really the first sweet things he had. This is before I knew that plants were poisonous. I hope we have that first clip in here. I didn't know I was poisoning the kid with avocado and watermelon, but yeah, I mean, like we kind of gave him the foods that we eat, and then something we always like really refrained on. It's not that we don't let our kids have treats, and they know what ice cream is. They know what a good burger tastes like, but I remember being like, hey, if we went through Andy's frozen custard, greatest frozen custard, shout out to Andy's, greatest frozen custard on the planet.
Let's collab. But one thing we didn't do was like if we had Andy's and your kid is 6, 7, 8 months old, we didn't give it to them because they didn't know what it was. Right. In fact, on Samuel's first birthday, like his cake, Kylie just took some whipped cream and put it on a plate with a candle in it, lit the candle, and I think he actually smashed it, smashed it. He didn't know how to blow it out, and he ate some whipped cream. And that's you could have parents. So that's mean. You should give them we do give them cake and ice cream, but your kids just turned a year old. You don't have to give them shit. You don't have to. They don't know any better. And it's actually the longer you can refrain from that, and they can learn these foods on their own, the better, because you're giving them a head start. You're not being cruel. You're giving them a real big head start by getting whole foods, eggs and fruits and things like that they taste really good too. Mm-hmm. And if they can learn that that's what tastes good, it's also good fuel for their little minds and their bodies. That's being kind, and that's helping your kid with that head start. Yeah, I was going to say, the boys just turned 1 this past week. We got them smash cakes, but I mean, they didn't really know what to do. They definitely liked the frosting, but they weren't digging into it or anything like that. And after a while, we were just like, all right, let's take it away, because they're eating handfuls of sugar and whatnot. The whipped cream actually probably would have been a better idea, because again, they don't know, they don't care. But it's also just kind of fun to watch them do their thing.
Let them have fun, of course. Yeah. Like I said, now with a 5 and 8 year old, grandparents spoil them, and they get them, they get them good food, and they like Brahms, Wendy's, whatever. They have been to McDonald's one time, and I took them. I was like, hey, do you want to try McDonald's? Of course, they at least knew what it was. We went through. They didn't like it. Yeah. They were not fans.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see that, especially if they're growing up eating just the majority Whole Foods and all that stuff. I could see McDonald's not tasting good to somebody who has not had it the first time, not having it, or having it after years. Yeah,
they love burgers, and we grill a lot at our house, especially in the summertime. But it's always grilled burgers, and I mean, gosh, it's so much better, a real grilled burger than McDonald's. They were kind of underwhelmed by it. So
yeah, did they like the fries?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure they did.
Well, when RFK gets confirmed, we'll go back to beef tallow, like the OG McDonald's fries.
You think they will?
No.
It'd be nice. I don't know if you can mandate that. I don't know if you can make them use a certain ingredient. I guess you could ban certain ingredients, but I don't know if you could say now you have to use this.
Yeah.
You know, when people want to go to eat McDonald's, you kind of know you're eating shit. That's the price, right? It's cheap, but the price you pay is you're putting shit in your body. I say let people do it. Freedom.
Yep, definitely. Did you guys have conversations with your parents about what they can give them, or were you kind of just like, you and Kylie were like, well, their grandma and grandpa are going to do what they're going to do. We're going to let them enjoy that. And
mostly that. Luckily, for those who don't know my background, my dad owned a gym growing up, and so that was in our house. We always ate pretty good. You know, we had our. I don't think we ever called it a cheat meal, but we knew it was let's get some junk, let's movie night, let's have some. You know, let's have some fun foods. But we grew up pretty healthy, and my parents have stuck to that. Kylie, the same. Her folks, that's how she grew up, eating pretty good. So they get snacks and stuff. But we don't regulate it. They kind of know that's where you go get spoiled. And I think you should. Every kid should get spoiled by their grandparent. That's where you go get coddled and spoiled, and you talk them into stuff. And they're little salesmen, so I'm sure they get kind of, you know, you get whatever you want at Grandpa and Grandma's.
Yeah. No, we've kind of gone the same path with the boys so far. Like I said, they just turned 1, so we do a lot of eggs, and I'll do breakfast sausage. Get the all natural breakfast sausage, chop it up, let them have at it, and then now that we're weaning them off of formula, they're doing whole milk. We're getting the Fairlife and doing the whole milk, higher protein, all that stuff.
Nice.
So it's fun. It's interesting to kind of be able to control what they're going to eat, you know, because they like just about everything we give them. So
yeah, I think a lot of the not being picky is just like giving your kids.
They don't know any better, like you said.
A big variety of stuff. My son does not like peanut butter. We kind of tease him about it. Yeah, he doesn't like peanut butter.
Really?
Yeah.
We just started giving the boys peanut butter and toast, and they inhale it.
Yeah, it's this. He never has. Doesn't like peanut butter.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I always like one day you will. And he'll even say like one day I will.
One day I
will. He doesn't. He try. He'll like he'll just try to just tell me. He'll say like I can see why you like it, but he doesn't likes nuts.
Yeah.
He'll eat almonds, peanut, whatever. Doesn't like peanut butter.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. Texture thing, or what is it?
I don't know. Doesn't like it. Weird kid.
Boys love it. They're all about it. So one of the fun things I think right now is they want everything you're eating. So I do a lot of. I've been taking the clear ISO and putting it in yogurt and berries, and they've been enjoying that. So it's kind of fun to be able to do that stuff with them. But as far as nutrition and stuff, because you said they kind of eat what you guys eat. So what is it that they get on a daily basis? Like what one of the questions was meal prep for kids. Mm-hmm. What do you guys do for them? Because they don't eat school lunch, right? Except one day.
So they sometimes. So Eleanor, she does lunch bunch on Thursday. She's in preschool, so she has lunch bunch. I think on Thursdays is the only day that she stays like the full day, and she takes her lunch then. Samuel will do probably not even once a week, but we'll let him if they want to eat whatever, it's pizza day or something at school. He'll do that, and he still usually takes some food with him. He has a big appetite. He's a big kid, so he'll do. But yeah, on a typical day, he says like the kids make fun of him or tease him, and good. He's got a good personality. He's a pretty confident little guy, so. He doesn't care. I think he teases right back and tells them that their stuff's junk. But he comes home and he's like, he was telling me that my food's weird, and I told him, well, you're eating a lunch bowl and a Capri Sun. I'm like, fuck yeah, buddy.
That's right.
No, typical. They'll eat like Kylie will send them with. They love burger bowls, like hamburger. We get our local. We use Real Beef Direct, which is local farmer there in Rogersville. It has free range, antibiotic, hormone free cattle. So we do we'll do that. So we'll do hamburger, rice. Kylie usually does a mixture of brown rice, white rice with pickles and ketchup, mustard. So burger bowl, chicken and rice. She'll make them little burritos. We always have homemade sourdough tortillas. Are very spoiled. My mom makes us a lot. She's really big into sourdough, so she'll make them burritos and stuff. But he'll take like a yogurt, an adult yogurt, some fruit, and he eats a lot. I'll see her pack the stuff. I'm like, how does he eat all this? She's like, yeah, he eat every day. He comes home and his lunch is usually gone or nearly gone. So one thing with kids, we always prioritize, just like you would with an adult, we prioritize protein. Our kids eat a lot of protein. It's every morning is eggs. And when we talk with our kids about, they kind of tell them the why. Kids are smarter than I think you give them credit for. So let them know, like, hey, make sure you finish your eggs. That's gonna help grow your muscles.
Yeah.
You know, and if it's oats or their sourdough bread or whatever, like, hey, finish that bread. That's going to give you energy. You're going to have good energy from those carbohydrates and stuff. So now they're not nutritionists. They're not wizards, but they have, just because we've always been talking about it. And this is kind of the same with, like, shit, I don't know. I have, I don't know when I started to pick up on the stuff that we talked about at my dinner table with my folks, but because that was always the conversation, you just kind of grow up knowing,
Right.
You probably know a bit about the restaurant business because your parents were in the restaurant business, but you don't remember the time your dad sat you down and said, hey, this is how the business, it's just a conversation.
Yeah.
And so we kind of keep that in our family as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it's so important for parents to realize. And I would imagine most parents realize this, but man, you set the tone, you set the example for your kids. I mean, we talked about this last time, but when you see overweight parents and then tracking right behind them are super overweight kids, it's kind of sad to see. I mean, and you wonder, I think, I don't know, it's a generalization, but you think they just don't have the education on where to start. And so what are the trickle-down effects of that? I mean, lack of education, that parent probably, they don't have the discipline, the motivation. There's a lot of things that go with it. But, man, I just think being a parent, there's such great responsibility that comes with that your kid should be a really good motivator for you to.
It should be.
Get in shape, get the education, take care of yourself.
Awareness, right? I mean, if you're an overweight parent, like you said, you're having a kid, like you should at some point, like if you're an overweight kid, I feel bad for overweight kids because it's not their fault. Kids kind of do what you tell them. They eat what you give them. They're not paying the grocery bill. They're not bringing food home. They're not the ones setting plans for dinner. So the kids get a complete pass. And when you see an overweight, especially a very overweight kid, that's probably has a tough life, a tougher life than it needs. It's hard enough being a kid, just being a normal kid.
Yeah.
I hate to say you wish normalcy on your kids, but you kind of do. You want them to fit in. You want them to be liked by other kids and stuff. And so when I see an overweight kid, it's like, that sucks. Life's going to be harder and unnecessarily harder. As a parent, even if your parents, which is usually where it comes from, didn't educate you, they weren't in shape, and you can blame highly processed foods and high fructose corn syrup and all the stuff that maybe led you down a different path. That while your parents weren't educated, you were fed different things as culture changed and stuff. So you end up overweight. At some point, as an adult, you have to be self-aware and say, like, hey, this is bad. You can look in the mirror like, this isn't good. I have health risks being this overweight, and you need to change. Either, if you're not going to do it for yourself, like you said, do it for your kids, because you don't want to set your kids up and lead them down that same lifestyle. And so then it becomes like you said, like, educate yourself. You're an adult. Educate yourself and get some have a little plan for how you're going to do it differently with your kids. Yeah,
especially now because there's so much information out there. So I know it can be a little daunting, but if you think back to kind of, if you just go back like 8 years ago, or prior to the pandemic, when we started to question a lot of these institutions and authorities, look at your cereal boxes or the different snacks and foods that they had out there for the kids. And one of the things that always stands out to me is it has all your whole grains in there, and that was like one of the big
fortified.
It's super healthy. Your Cheerios are super healthy because it's got whole grains in there.
Yeah.
That's what you need. It's right in line with the food pyramid that the government tells you that you need to follow.
Yeah.
So, and that's, if you're somebody who doesn't know, like one of those parents, and you think you're giving your kids a healthier option because it has that whole grain sticker on there, then but you're still being led down the wrong path.
What's the saying, like part of a complete breakfast?
Yeah.
It is part of a complete breakfast, but if you take it out, it's still, let's say you did some Cheerios with whole milk, blueberries, and eggs. Well, you could remove the Cheerios and you still have a complete breakfast.
Right.
The Cheerios are just kind of the shit that is added in there. And I'm not knocking on Cheerios or any other. You can knock on some cereals. Some cereals are just shit, like just pure sugar. But if you've ever had Fruity Pebbles made into Rice Krispie treats, boy, you want to keep that stuff. Luke's eyes got big. You want to keep that around, but it's not real food. It's not what you give your kids for breakfast. Jesus,
yeah,
So I think it's it's kind of seeing past the bullshit and just getting back to just real foods.
Yeah.
Hey, what's a good protein source you can give your kids for breakfast? Is it, a good Greek yogurt? There's great tasting Greek yogurts there. Add some honey, some berries, like you said with your boys. Eggs, we go through a ton of eggs at the house. You can make them 100 different ways, scrambled, put some ketchup on them, cheesy eggs, whatever it is. Like, you can find good and inexpensive protein sources for your kids, and just like with adults, if you start with that being a priority, the other things tend to kind of fall in line.
Yeah. No, I mean, the simplest way to go about it, I mean, I think where anybody can start if they don't know where to start is, your protein source, have it come from an animal or a byproduct of the animal. So the egg, the cheese, the yogurt, anything like that's going to be a good protein source. And when it comes to, carbs, I always think it's single ingredients like potatoes, rices. Those are the best places to start. And anything that kind of looks like a science experiment when you turn around the label, it's probably a good indicator to stay away from.
There's things I think that are a little tricky. I'm trying to think of good examples. Our kids do a lot of fruit. This time of year, it's hard to get it's winter time, so you can still get good fruits. But with pineapple's one. We buy pineapple. If you don't eat it in the first couple of days, it goes bad. So we get the pineapple cups. But you just need to find the ones that are pineapple in water, like no sugar added. It's just pineapple in water. Because there's pineapple and pineapple juice. There's those. It's a little tricky, but watching the sugars and then the added sugars is the big one. So if you're buying fruit for your kids, like canned fruit, anything with
that syrup.
Yeah, I was trying to think anything like that has, there's total sugars and then added sugars.
Right.
If something has carbohydrates, fruit in it, it could have some sugars in it. Pay attention to the sugars. A good rule of thumb, if you can keep that, for your kids or even for yourself, under double digits. So let's say 10 grams or less of total sugars with 0 added sugars, you're kind of headed in the right direction. Just it's not universal, but just as a good rule of thumb, keep the sugar servings for your kids below double digits and avoid added sugars. It always says the total sugars and the added sugars below it. Keep an eye on that number.
Yeah. Is Eleanor picky?
She is. She's more of a picky eater a little bit, and definitely has a sweet tooth.
Yeah.
Yeah, much more so. I don't know if it's just difference in kids.
Yeah. What is the stuff you guys keep around for them? For Eleanor, the sweet tooth. What do you do for that?
We do snacks. We have a whole kind of snack drawer that they know that's their go-to. We don't withhold food much from them. If they're getting ready for a meal, we might say hey, hold off. You're going to eat a meal first. But there's a brand kind of shops a lot at Mama Jean's with kind of a quote health food store here. But we get the junkless granola bars. They get no sugar added stuff. Some of these little almond flour cookies and things. A lot of their fruit, they love apples, and if I don't know why, if you slice an apple rather than give them an apple, they eat way more of it. So sliced apples, if you give, apples, oranges, I mentioned the pineapple and stuff. So a lot of fruit. I don't think you're going to see a lot of people or children for that matter overweight, dealing with a weight problem because they ate too much
fruit.
They got a real fruit problem over here, So they eat a lot of fruit and stuff for some cheeses and things. Just getting whole foods, good whole rounded foods is their snacks. And then when it's mealtime, they usually they're eating what we eat.
Right. What do you think of red dye being banned? I think we talked about it in the first episode, but there's a lot of with RFK's confirmation stuff coming up this week. So
two things. One, I think there's probably a lot more low hanging fruit that you could start with. But that said, it's a good start. It's something it's simple. You don't need it. There's other options to color your stuff. So getting rid of the dyes is great.
I'm not familiar. The way I look at all this stuff in our food that everybody complains about, I don't really waste my time. I just don't take my time looking into it because, again, if it's an experiment, if it looks like a science experiment or it just doesn't make sense for something to be in there, like a dye or TBHQ as a preservative, that's a butane, that's lighter fluid. It's all that stuff they can put in your food. That's probably not good for me. So do you know anything about the red dye stuff? Is that the stuff that's connected to the ADHD in kids or?
I believe, I don't know what the connection is. So I don't want to speak on it, but, I kind of err with what you said is I guess I see stuff linked to ADHD, linked to, I guess like hyperactive and stuff. I think there's probably more dangerous stuff out there, that you need to be watching. But if it doesn't need to be in there, and I'm talking even like not even for color, like you can color stuff without using red 40. You can color stuff. We do it here. Like we don't use any artificial dyes, colors, nothing. But we have stuff that looks red because we use beetroot in it. We have stuff that looks blue because we use blueberry powder in it. So you can mix those together and red and blue make purple. But you can do like the example with the cereals. Other countries who've already banned the dyes and stuff, they have colored cereals too. They're just not using the quote unquote more dangerous stuff or more suspect stuff. And I think when you can get the goop out, the more the better.
Yeah. It's an interesting conversation because the pushback you see from it is like, oh, well, it's fine in small amounts. That's why the FDA allows it, all that stuff. But I guess my question is,
and maybe it is, but what's a small amount?
Well, it's a small amount, but again, think of like the unhealthy people that we see. What the majority of our country is obese, right?
Yeah.
What's the toxicity buildup over a lifetime of consuming processed junk?
Right.
Like you get a lot of people push back against, like, we could get into the seed oils or the artificial sweeteners and stuff like that. But I'm not opposed to like people having that stuff, but I do think it's a fair question to point to some kind of a culprit when our sickness, it's out of control, right? Mm-hmm. We're the sickest country in the world, and we have, we're the most advanced country in the world as well. So I think it's a fair question to say that overconsumption over years and years of someone's life could lead to, the issues with your thyroid, cancer, whatever diseases that are popping up now that we didn't see, 50, 60, 70 years ago.
Well, the people always point to our healthcare, and our healthcare needs reformed, and there's plenty of issues with healthcare and insurance and stuff like that. But you're never going to fix it without the preventative care,
right.
And that's really, no one wants to point the finger back at themselves. While healthcare is a mess, and insurance is a mess, and insurance companies and CEOs are greedy. Yes. But you wouldn't need all that healthcare, and those insurance companies wouldn't be collecting those big check stuff if you fucking took care of yourself in the first place, and you didn't need the healthcare system. You weren't reliant on all the. I'm talking as the country's whole, on all the meds and all the
right.
Like we have an extremely bloated healthcare system because we're extremely bloated and fat.
Yeah,
like that's a fact, and we don't want to point the finger back at ourselves. As a culture, as a society who's just been okay with slowly growing more and more unhealthy, more and more overweight, and eventually you're going to have a healthcare system that's so taxed it can't fully take care of anyone.
Right.
Well,
it's just ripe for corruption, whatever you want to call it, corruption, people taking advantage of the system, the CEOs, whatever it is. But it's kind of an interesting thought experiment. Like, what would happen if we had a culture that put our health and fitness first? Like, I think back to the JFK, that era where they had the videos of those kids in the PE and the PE doing like all the crazy like physical fitness and stuff that you would never see today.
You couldn't even ask kids to do it today.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like they were doing CrossFit before CrossFit was a thing.
Yeah.
What would be the downhill effects of, our healthcare system and all these insurance companies if we weren't a sick population?
Well, I think you see a lot of
would all that corruption and stuff kind of figure itself out, or
I don't think you're ever going to eliminate corruption.
Sure.
Right.
But
you drive around town. Look at all the healthcare facilities. Now, there's also, you have an aging population of the boomers they're getting that age where they're going to need healthcare. They're going to need that. So, but the added strain isn't from elderly people who need just normal arthritis and all the things that come with aging and age related disease. There's a lot of young people, like with crazy complications from diabetes and dialysis and stuff because of the lack of self-care and self-discipline they've had. And again, you can blame the food system and all that, but at some point it all comes down to self and self awareness and responsibility, and instead of blaming the healthcare, get out of the healthcare system.
Yeah.
If it's not too late, especially if it's not too late. If you're in your whatever age, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, if you're an adult and you know that you're running around as a high risk individual, for you, get yourself out of the risk zone before you become reliant on that, before you're on diabetes medication for the rest of your life, before you have some type of autoimmune flare up that is treatable, uncurable, and you're just now part of the system.
Yeah, definitely. What are we sitting at, Luke? 30 minutes? All right, perfect. Since we're talking about kids, nutrition, and all that stuff, throw in some advice for parents, and let's take it for the parent that's overweight and doesn't want their kid to be run down that same path.
Number one, set a good example.
Right.
If you're an overweight parent, it sounds like so simple. Stop being overweight. The episode. Stop being overweight. Like, monitor your calories. Okay, if you're not going to monitor your calories, monitor your protein. Exercise, even if you're maybe not immediately lose weight, but there's nothing more powerful than your kid watching you. And if you're a role model, which you inevitably are, whatever your role you're modeling, that's what the kids see. So if you're a role model and they see you exercise and they see you trying, they see you put forth effort into your own physical capabilities and health and just being a strong person, physically and mentally, which go hand in hand. Don't be weak. It's a good role to play for your kids is let your kids see you be strong. Mm-hmm. That's important. Kids want a strong parent. And number two, with you mentioned like what you can do with kids is prioritize protein, whole foods. There's eggs, cottage cheese, yogurts. There's a lot of inexpensive things you can do to have good protein sources for your kids. And make sure they're active. This is good for your kids, not just physically, but also with interpersonal skills and relationships and stuff. Have your kids do hard things. Have them play sports and be involved. And if it's something where, well, and this is true too. Like maybe you weren't super athletic and your kids are themselves. Like maybe they're not real athletic, so they're not going to go be on a baseball team, a traveling team stuff. First of all, there's like simple like parks and rec leagues for kids like that. Mm-hmm. For simple stuff. In our house, like we wrestle a lot. Like we do that at a high level. We travel. We do it kind of all year round. But also, we'll go play soccer at the Parks and Rec League. It's laid back. It's easy. It's active. It's fun, and you can go play with friends. If that's not an option, there's taekwondo class and there's jiu-jitsu class and there's you can go learn to play tennis, and there's kids. We have kids on the wrestling team, but they're not there to go win a state championship. They're there to be active. They're there to learn discipline. It's a combat sport. There's discipline involved. And I think kudos to those kids and parents. Like they picked a hell of a sport to stay active in. But man, it's good for the kids and the confidence they see from playing sports and being active and interacting with other kids. You can't get that anywhere else. I think sports when you're young and you're able to go do those things is a huge thing. And they'll take that if they have some lifetime sports skills. They can go to YMCA. There's guys that pickleball is really popular right now for older people, and so you want to stay active and doing things. So as you age, you have the confidence to go pick up a pickleball racket or go play basketball, whatever. Like just move. Healthy, fun movement.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think like you said, the best place to start is just be the example for your kid. It's kind of a weird motivating factor, but like I want to be the fit parent that my kids' friends are like, yo, wow, your he's in really good shape. He's jacked, whatever, It's a little egotistical or whatever, but I was talking to a buddy and he said because he's super fit, Steve, and he coached his son's tackle football team. And he's like, all the kids just kind of looked up to me because that's the truth of it. It's not him like bragging about himself, but yeah.
Like Kevin and I are aliens when we go to it feels like
that's
we're aliens
true.
when we go places together
when we went to St. Louis for the S2 event a couple years ago. When we were walking around the Cardinals baseball game, like everybody was just staring. It was so funny to watch because everybody was just. And
we're not like crazy big like bodybuilder people. We're just
extremely fit.
We're just very fit, and it's uncommon. Yep. To have two people like this when we go to tournaments and stuff. Someone another parent so they were telling someone, well, Brian's the coach. Which one of the coaches he
the fucking yoked one.
And he said they're the family that look like the Incredibles. And they said, oh, I know who that is. So it's you want to set that example. You're a role model. regardless of if it's positive or negative.
Yeah.
So what role are you going to model? And being, there's nothing wrong with being the fit parent, and that it doesn't have to be your ego involved, but of course you can take some pride in keeping yourself fit like that. It feels good and you're active and you have energy and stuff. You have to put out, you have to expend energy to feel energetic. And there's some pride in that and taking care of yourself. There should be.
Definitely.
You know?
And before we wrap it up, just going off that, like, you should want to be around for your kids for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be able to run around with my grandkids. And when I say run around, like move, squat, all that stuff.
Yes.
I mean, I looked at my grandparents, even my parents now, like it's kind of sad to say, but like my grandparents especially, they just withered away. And like, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Now that generation came from a generation where there was no education on the benefits of that type of stuff. So it's almost like we know better now, so it's almost shame on you for doing something that's common, for not doing something that's common sense.
So the other extreme of this, I've changed how I walk around about 25 pounds lighter than I used to, and I've changed how I lift everything because there's another extreme of it. I was big. You know, I was heavy. I was always one that, like, that big cellular density. I wanted to push big weights. I've way backed off on the food consumption for the most part. On the heavy lifting. So I still lift heavy. I like to get in and push some weights around, but I'm not always pushing it. And because I'm thinking like more on the longevity spectrum now. I was older when I had kids. And so now I'm looking at, like, gosh, I have a buddy of mine, Cody, who he has 2 high school boys now, and he wrestled in college, wrestled at UNO, and he goes and wrestles with them every day. They don't have good partners. They're very, very good athletes. They don't have great partners in the room. Cody's a smaller guy. He goes and wrestles with them every day at 40. Gosh, he's probably 5-6 years older than me. So 46, 47. And I think about that, you know, my kid's probably, first of all, he's probably not going to be a small kid. He's a giant second grader. And so I'm like, God, if I have 180, 200 pound junior student in high school, am I going to be able to wrestle this big dude, you know?
Yeah.
So if he doesn't have partners, God, first of all, I'd really like to think he's going to find some good partners, so I don't have to, but I would love to have the ability to go do that. And I'll be 50 years old at that time. So it's how long can I keep it? How long can I stay in shape and keep it so I can be around to participate and then enjoy, his kids and beyond. Luckily, my kids have all their grandparents still, and they're in good shape and they're involved, and it's all good examples for it.
Yeah. Yep. Do it for the kids. Do it for your kids. And they're definitely the
no
greatest,
better reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm finding that out for sure. There's no greater motivating factor than your kids. So, but perfect. Let's wrap it up. Fucking cut it, Luke.
I did.
I think there's music that plays now.